Hi friends! Your first video for reading today is going to be me reading chapter 18 to you, and you may follow along with me or you may just listen. And then our goal after we hear the end, I can't believe we're ending Night of the Spadefoot Toads, but at the end, you're going to go on to my second video on step 2, and you're going to be watching what we're learning today. And I'm going to show you what theme I chose for Night of the Spadefoot Toads. And I'm going to model choosing 3 pieces of evidence to support the theme. And then you're going to do the same thing next week when you're reading something different for me. It's a story called Shells. So I'm going to go ahead and get started on chapter 18. I'm hoping we discover what happens to the property. Will it be saved? Has Ben done enough to change Tabitha's mind and persuade her? I think we were probably convinced based on watching your theme videos that you posted to Flipgrid, which were really great, that Ben has adapted here. Change can be hard and it's not always easy. But once you do, you might learn to love this place. And so I think some of you have already realized and you voiced that in chapter 17, Evan, I know that you mentioned that when he got his box and it arrived, he felt like a piece of it was missing. And that piece is that he's not missing Tucson, Arizona anymore. That will always be part of him. But he's enjoying being here in Tucson, Massachusetts, and he's loving it. He's made friends and he's found a new biome, an environment that he loves. So let's see how this ends. Chapter 18. After school on Wednesday, Ben's heading into the kitchen for his snack when the phone rings. He grabs the receiver before his sister can get there. "No fair," she says. "You always get it first." He holds his hand over the mouthpiece for a second. "So? Life's not fair." "I hate it when you say that," Agatha shouts. She dashes out the door and slams it behind her. Ben turns back to the phone. Someone is chuckling. "Ben?" a voice says. "Yes?" "It's Mrs. Tibbetts. Is your mother there? I'd like to speak to her." Ben hesitates. Okay. "It's nothing bad, Ben. I just need to talk with her for a minute." Ben hands the receiver to his mom, who says hi to Mrs. Tibbetts. He doesn't know what to make of it when, after a minute of listening, she starts laughing. "I see," she says, looking over at Ben. "All right." She hangs up and announces, "Mrs. Tibbetts is picking you up in about 15 minutes. "For what?" "She'll tell you." "But Mom." "I'm sorry, you'll just have to wait." Ben tries to wheedle it out of her, but when he sees it's no use, he goes outside to wait. A long half hour later, Mrs. Tibbetts' station wagon pulls into the driveway. She leans over and opens the door. "Hi," Ben says as he hops in. "Hello, Ben." Mrs. Tibbetts backs out of the driveway and heads down the street. Ben waits for her to say something, but she keeps her eyes on the road and her mouth shut. "Where are we going?" he finally asks. "To my house," she says. When they round the last corner, Ben sees Tabitha Turner standing beside her car in the driveway. Someone Ben hasn't seen before is next to her. "Hello, Ben," Mrs. Turner says as he and Mrs. Tibbetts get out of the car. "Hi," he says. He looks from person to person, trying to get a sense of what this is all about. "I asked Gloria if she thought you'd like to come over. We've just been talking to Mr. Shelby here. He's with the local land trust." Ben opens his mouth, then closes it again. No one says anything for a minute. They're all looking at each other, trying to figure out who should speak first. "I've decided to sell most of the property to the land trust," Tabitha finally says. "I'm holding on to 2-acre plot on the other side of the vernal pool where we may put up a few houses." Ben nods, still too stunned to speak. "The Spadefoots will be all right. I thought you should know." Ben looks at Mrs. Tibbetts, then back at Mrs. Turner. "You changed your mind?" Ben says. Mrs. Turner nods her head. "Yes, someone made me change my mind." Ben's face breaks into a huge grin. That's great. That's really great, he says. Thanks. Thank you so much. You're welcome, Mrs. Turner says. No, I really mean thanks. And I really mean you're welcome. Mrs. Turner gets in her car, starts the motor, then rolls down the window. One more thing, Ben. If you see the overtoad, thank her for me. Okay, says Ben. Maybe someone should name the trail by the pool the Overtoad Trail, Mrs. Tibbet says. Mrs. Turner looks at her sister-in-law and manages a smile. That's a good idea, she says. The land trust man shakes Mrs. Tibbet's hand and gets in the passenger side of Mrs. Turner's car. Ben and Mrs. Tibbet wave as the cars pull away. Without a word, like they speak the same silent language, Mrs. Tibbet and Ben walk around the garage and head toward the woods. Ben feels his feet connect with the ground, like he's part of it, and it's part of him. I think that just shows this feels like home. Massachusetts, Mrs. Tibbetts, the vernal pool, the woods. This is where Ben feels grounded now. This is home. Guys, I think he did it. As they enter the trees, a breeze pushes the branches back and forth, showing the silvery undersides of the leaves. They come closer and closer to the place where the vernal pool was and will be again. Suddenly, Mrs. Tibbetts draws in a breath and stops. Oh my gosh, she whispers, holding an arm out in front of Ben. What is it? He whispers. Look, just look. She points to the path ahead. Ben looks where she's pointing, and the hair rises in his arms. It's a rattlesnake crossing the path about 10 feet in front of them. Sliding quietly over the dirt and leaves, another one follows it. Ben and Mrs. Tibbet watch them until they disappear into the undergrowth. I don't believe it, Mrs. Tibbet murmurs. I just don't believe it. They both stand there for a moment, barely breathing. They're surrounded by the small sounds of the woods. Far off in the distance, they can hear a car motor. Finally, Mrs. Tibbet breaks the silence. Well, she says, I guess we're just going to have to be a little bit more careful around here from now on. It seems as though we have new neighbors. I hope they feel at home, Ben says. I hope you do too, Ben, Mrs. Tibbet says. I do, he says. And he does, right at home. And that is the end of Night of the Spadefoot Toads. I feel like we need to celebrate. Like, celebrate good time. Come on. We finished Night of the Spadefoot Toads. And I'm so proud of us. And so today, on your next video, I'm going to identify a theme and show some evidence that backs it up. And I'm hoping that if you chose a different theme, you could do the same. And we're going to keep practicing this with, as I stated earlier, another text called Shells, and you're going to be doing this independently. So really watch the skill video today on theme and proving it with evidence from the text. But last but not least, wow, Ben, he did it. He saved the land, and better yet, he found home here in Massachusetts, and he adapted, and he's happy. And what a great ending. And the rattlesnakes are still alive. So stay tuned. In step 2 of reading today, make sure you watch the second video. Missing you all. Bye, guys.